Hey!
Hey, hi.
Welcome to the Natasha and Debbie Show.
Hello.
That's brutal. Just two patriotic girls. So please don't take us the wrong way.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the Natasha and Debbie Show.
Thanks for being here.
She walked in like this, so I have no idea what she's wearing.
I'm wearing a black hoodie, Debbie.
So, yes, it is a black hoodie. So, what else is under? What's the
This is not that type of show, Debbie.
Thank you.
What else is under there? I think you know. Nothing!
Ah. She's got the gear on.
I'm just wearing my, I never take this thing off. Mandy Potts, thank you. She's one of our patrons. Sent this to me, a month and a half. Well, it's
Yeah, it's been
Christmas.
quite a while.
The Christmas tree was still up.
Yeah.
Lincoln City Football Club. I have gotten yelled at by
She
Debbie.
barely takes it off. I'm never allowed to wear it,
It's mine.
but I don't really wear scarves that much, so it's very becoming on you.
Don't say that.
I know, that sounded so. Looks
Well,
good.
Today's episode, we're excited as heck about this one because it's something we've been dancing around for a year and a half.
We've been dancing,
Yeah.
tap dancing, square dancing.
No square dancing.
I
No, we've done videos on several different sports. We've done rugby videos,
Mm-hmm.
which I love.
Mm-hmm.
We've done one now on the AFL, Aussie Rules football. We have more to do on that.
Mm-hmm.
We have, again, like I said, danced around the sport, but
Yeah.
we have touched on it.
We have.
have touched on it.
We've done chants.
We've done the comparison of chants between
Yes,
our country
yes.
and the UK.
Exactly.
We've
And
done
stadiums. We've
stadiums,
taken a look at the stadiums.
but we haven't done anything else. And there's one simple reason why. We don't know anything about football to you,
Yes.
soccer to us, or let's just make it simple and say European football.
That sounds much easier to deal with. Now, I did play soccer
Yeah, you did. So you should know stuff.
when I was a wee little girl. But we just kicked the ball around, made goals.
Well, I'm excited to learn. So this one is called European Soccer Explained for Americans. I know this video's been out there for a while. I know other people have reacted to it, but you know what? We haven't.
Right. It's our turn.
And we do sports. I was a basketball girl all my life, still am. Football girl. We love the NFL.
Yes.
And so this one says it's a general overview of how the main differences between soccer and American sports with a focus on the European leagues, covering the league's strategy and player contracts, of which we know nothing of. So it's time to learn. Hopefully learn some more about it and see what knowledge we can get to stick to our brains. I think it'll be a good time. So let's do this.
So I've been wanting to start following soccer for a while now, but as an American, I always found it complicated. Not like how they play. Most 3-year-olds can kind of understand more or less how it works. I just mean how everything kind of works in Europe. You know, I would follow the World Cup, and I'd root for the United States if they made it. And then I'd root for Iceland because clearly they've all been practicing that clapping, and they're really good at it. But that only happens once every 4 years. So I turn on my TV, and it would be a random game like Parma versus Bologna. And first I'd make sure that I wasn't watching the Food Network, but then I had no frame of reference for this game. Like,
Right.
Are these teams good? You know, is this a big game? Which one of these guys is Pele? You know, I didn't know. And I had all these other questions, you know, why are teams getting kicked out of leagues? Why are they all rolling around on the ground so much? How are guys getting traded to different countries? And why does everybody in the stands have a scarf? So a few months ago, I tried to start figuring it all out. And I started watching some matches. That's the first thing. They aren't soccer games. They are football matches.
We knew that.
And I bought FIFA for my Xbox, and I bought a scarf and a vuvuzela because that's like the rules or something. So anyway, this is all the info that I wish I'd known a year ago. This is my crash course of translating soccer into American.
Into American.
I'm going to assume that you kind of know the rules. The biggest difference between American sports is how offsides works and the clock. Lots of people get upset about the clock. It goes up instead of down. Get over yourself. It doesn't really matter. Americans also get mad.
Yeah, I'm interested in the offsides because I think I know a little bit of it, at least our version of it. So it'll be, hopefully we'll learn.
Let's hear it then.
Hopefully we'll learn.
Let's hear it then. Come on, Debbie, before he tells you.
You can't be hanging out between the players and the goal unless you have the ball.
Wait, what?
You can't be an offensive player between the defense and the goal unless you have the ball. That's my easiest way to explain it. Probably still doesn't make sense.
Okay, we'll find out if she's right. Let us know in the comments if she got that. Write that just to hear.
Clock. It goes up instead of down. Get over yourself. It doesn't really matter. Americans also get mad because the clock doesn't stop and games pretty much end whenever the ref feels like it.
Yes, I noticed that.
And you actually adjust to this pretty quickly. The game's an hour and a half long. You'll have your chances to score. And if you can't score, then it's not the clock's fault. Some people, and when I say people, I'm referring both to discussions I've had with other Americans as well as like myself 6 years ago. So people think soccer is too slow. And when Americans look at a soccer field, something in our minds, we think that it's like playing hockey or playing basketball just on a big grass field. And in those sports, guys like go full tilt a lot, most of the game. So when two players are just standing there passing the ball back and forth, we wonder, like, why aren't they trying to move forward? Just go. And on the other side, we expect the defenders to be attacking the guy with the ball.
Right, that's
rather
true.
than just standing 5 feet back and letting him do what he's doing. The key difference is that football pitches are much larger than basketball courts and hockey rinks. And if you tried a full court press for the whole soccer game, you would be exhausted and you would probably lose.
Makes sense.
The pace of a soccer game is actually much closer to baseball. Most of the game is going to consist of guys just slowly passing the ball around, real peaceful. And then it's going to be all of a sudden followed by these short bursts of extremely fast action. Basketball players, it's estimated, run an average of 2.5 miles during a game. Soccer players can run 7, if not 10 miles during one game. And remember, you only get 3 subs games, so most of these players will be playing the whole game. One thing Americans will appreciate is that other than halftime, there are no commercials. So it's like the anti-NFL, which is great. It also means that no matter where the ball is, both teams are always potentially about 30 seconds away from score.
Did you see what he just did? Rugby over NFL. That was cute.
That no matter where the ball is, both teams are always potentially about 30 seconds away from scoring, which creates this kind of constant tension. It also creates a scenario where you can't ever really run to the bathroom or get a drink.
That's true.
Soccer players seem to have a reputation for being lazy in the U.S. because they don't always pop right back up after going to ground and get right back into play. Certainly some players do embellish things and some go over the top, but I don't really think that on the whole it's quite the issue that people make it out to be. So they get made fun of in Europe too.
I just wanted to make a quick point to that. Embellishment, we were taught that playing basketball. I mean, when you charge, I don't know what you guys know about basketball, how many people care about it. But if the offensive player on basketball is coming at you, you stand still. If he barely touches you, my dad taught me to act and fall down. So I get that. That embellishment's part of the sport, and a lot of sports.
Part of most sports. I mean,
I think so too.
We did that in the kid games that I was playing.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Okay. I just think that's interesting. But I get that aspect of it. But so far, so good.
On the whole, it's quite the issue that people make it out to be. So they get made fun of in Europe, too. So here's a fun experiment to try the next time you have a few minutes. Go to like a local field and then quickly jog laps around that field for like 10 minutes.
I'm going to pass.
And then suddenly sprint down the middle of the field as fast as you can. And when you're halfway up the field, while you're still sprinting, have one of your friends just shove you over onto the ground. And if you can pop right back up and keep sprinting, then you can keep complaining about this.
Coming to Patreon on March. Back to the video.
Guys, a lot of the time they're just taking a little rest. Everyone will either just keep playing around them or both teams will be a little tired, so who cares? It's not a Matthew Riley novel out there. The other reason for guys slowly passing the ball around is that one of the strategies currently employed by most teams is to maintain possession as much as possible. Obviously, this is no different in American football or why Russia is really good at hockey. The other team can't score when you have the ball. So teams will just pass the ball back and forth and even pass it back to their own goalie because it's better to go backwards with the ball than to maybe make a risky pass and let the other team have the ball. On occasion, you'll see a team make like 50 passes without the other team touching the ball, which can take a really long time, but then they'll go down and they'll score, and that's like as good as it gets. It's all about waiting for the precise moment for things to align and then all going together at the right moment. In terms of like positioning and formations, you'll usually have 3 or 4 numbers, like 4-4-2 or
Okay.
4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1.
Okay.
These numbers will always add up to 10, and then the goalie is just assumed. Different positions include the center backs, who just stay as defenders, and then the full backs are both the left and the right back, who will defend, but then they'll also usually join the attack as well. And then we have midfielders, like a center midfielder, who can go both ways, a center attacking midfielder or a center defending midfielder. And then up front, we have like a left wing and a right wing, sometimes a center forward, and a striker up front it's his job to just score goals.
Right. Okay.
One thing I'll mention that makes it easy to kind of get into soccer is that you can legally watch some old matches on YouTube. This is unlike American sports. Like, why isn't there a website that I can go to watch any game, like an iTunes for sports? So like, I can pay $2 to watch any game in history. Like, all these games are on tape somewhere. They exist.
Okay.
But I can't watch a game in the 1986 World Series unless an international pandemic shuts down the world and there's no sports. And I just happen to put it on NBC or something.
He's not
like,
wrong.
come on. So anyway, so keeping the ball and attacking is referred to as positive football. You're always trying to move forward. This is what most teams do. This is what people like to watch a little more. It's kind of exciting. It's more exciting to watch that way. But of course, there's always a yin to the yang. So the yin is this guy named Jose Mourinho. And he basically says, I don't want the ball. I'm going to stand back with my players in front of my goal, and you're not going to score. And then every once in a while, when you're falling asleep and all your players are up in my zone, we're going to steal the ball and we're going to run down and score, which sounds a little bit risky.
Yeah.
Except that it actually does work if you do it well. Jose's considered one of the best managers there is, and he has the trophies to back it up. He's won plenty of big tournaments with teams. And I told if you tried to have that team keep the ball the whole time, like most coaches would, they would have been destroyed. They were too old and they just would have got worn out and wiped out. But by playing this negative defensive strategy, they were able to win. And despite this, teams that employ this strategy seem to get a bad rap for playing negative as opposed to positive football, because keeping the ball seems to be the in thing right now. So obviously there's more thought that goes into it than I've described here. Like Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid has been using this negative strategy for years, and they've been successful with it. On the flip side, the guys who've risen to the top playing possession football are also widely sought after. Two of the most well-known coaches right now are Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. And I highly recommend watching the series All or Nothing about Manchester City on Amazon Prime. It's about Guardiola's team a few years ago. And it's quite clear from interviews with these guys that they're quite thoughtful and well-traveled. I couldn't name a single baseball manager who can speak 3 languages.
No.
Speaking of Manchester City, they play in England. There are 4 main football countries in Europe. There's England, Spain, Germany, and Italy. England has the Premier League, Spain has La Liga, Germany has the Bundesliga, and Italy has Serie A.
Wait, what?
So to take one country.
Wait, what? Whoa. I feel so stupid now. I thought the Premier League was like not. I didn't know that was just England. I thought that was like.
Thought the other countries had that too.
Yeah, I thought that was worldwide.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Guess now we know.
Did you think that too?
Yeah, I kind of did.
I think we both did. I thought the Premier League was like the league. Like the top league of all leagues, and like everybody was in it.
Yeah, the one to go to. To get to.
Ew.
So it makes it I mean, put out like this, it does make sense.
I mean, that's a mind-blown moment for me. Okay. So far, everything else, though, is standard. Get it? You know, I understand positions. You know, having played many sports in my life, I get it. They're very standard. Like most games, are similar. And you have, you know, your go-to people and your blockers and your strikers, things. Different words.
Yeah.
But I get that. Okay, this just surprised me. I really thought that the Premier League was like a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
And that was just like the top league of all the leagues. So I did not know they were called something different. All right. Well, there we go.
Country, they're all the same, but to take one country, England, the Premier League consists of 20 teams. Every team plays every other team once at home and once away. And these leagues don't have playoffs. You get 3 points for a win, 1 for a tie. The team with the most points at the end of the season wins. And this can and has come down to the final day of the season before. In the U.S., our leagues pretty much have the same teams every year. So if you suck, and even if you start to lose on purpose, You actually get rewarded with the top draft pick the next year.
You do?
If you finish in last place in one of these leagues, they literally kick you out of the league. But they call it relegation because that's a nicer sounding word. Before we keep going, here's a quick aside on the MLS. Major League Soccer is the top league in the United States. It's different in many ways than the European leagues. There's no relegation, so the teams do stay the same from year to year, and there is a salary cap.
Yeah, there's no relegation because it would never happen here.
No
sport
I mean, we just
in our country would be okay with that.
none of it works that way. None of it.
It's just not how. You're right.
Right or wrong, it's just not the way it is.
It's just different.
Because I actually kind of like the idea of them kind of moving around.
Do you?
I do.
I don't know how I feel about that. I'd have to think about that more.
No relegation, so the teams do stay the same from year to year, and there is a salary cap. Talent-wise, I guess globally speaking, it seems to be an okay league, but certainly not on par with any of the European leagues.
We know that. Thank you.
So under the Premier League, which is at the top, under them is a league called the English Football League Championship.
Oh, good. We're going into this.
3 teams who finish at the bottom of the Premier League are relegated to the Championship for the next season and replaced by 3 teams from the Championship.
Really?
The bottom 3 teams in Championship are relegated to League 1. The bottom 3 in League 1 are relegated to League 2, whose losers...
Why the bottom 3? Why 3?
Because they have the less points.
Yeah, but why 3? Why not just 1? I didn't know it was 3.
Well, I guess
I thought it was just one team.
So you can mix up the teams within your leagues.
But I thought it was just one team that they did that with. I don't know, it was 3.
I guess it's 3 all the time. That way you mix up who's in and who's out.
It's just... Okay. Huh. My mind's a little bit confused on this one.
It is?
I just don't understand why 3. I would assume... I thought it was 1.
Mm-hmm.
It should be, you're the worst in this league, so if you're going to do the relegation thing,
out.
which is still weird to me, then bye.
Yep.
But 3?
Yeah, and since you're in the top of the bracket below, then you move up.
Well, I get that.
But yeah,
wait,
I understand.
how many move up? I was focused on them moving down. Did he say that?
If they take 3 down, then they take 3 up.
3 gets to go up too? I'll see that. I don't like that. I think it should be 1 and 1. That's my thought.
Well,
My opinion.
yeah, it's their role though.
Well, yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying I didn't know, so
why
it's
3.
This is bothering me more than it should. It's not. I'm sorry, I just didn't know that. I thought it was just 1. Okay, I didn't know.
1, the bottom 3 in League 1 are relegated to League 2, whose losers go to the National League, whose losers are... nobody really cares about them except their moms at this part, but you get the idea.
Oh.
That's so
Unless
mean.
you really get into soccer, you'll never hear about anything below the Premier League again. But just so you're aware of what's happening down there.
I don't like that.
This system does a few things. First off, just because you're near the bottom of the standings, your games can still be extremely important. They still count because you're not trying to win the league anymore, but now you're trying to literally stay in the league.
Okay,
and the
not to
higher
get
the
relegated.
league you're in, the higher the check you get from TV contracts. So it's kind of a big deal. It also creates this kind of theoretical meritocracy where you could start a team with a bunch of guys anywhere in the country, get into a kind of a tiny league, and then ultimately work your way up to the Premier League. In reality, that'd be like trying to take a single-A baseball team and work your way up to the majors, while the other better teams with bigger pocketbooks are trying to buy all your best players the whole way.
Okay, and that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys get that reference on the American part of it, but I was going to say, how likely is that to do that, and how long would that take? And based off what he just said with the baseball connection there, that would be almost like, that would never happen in baseball. So I don't know if that's a fair analogy to use that.
Right.
You agree?
Yeah.
But how long would that take to take a team, from the bottom and bring them to the Premier League? Like, what's the fastest that could happen? And let's say they're just tearing it apart, man. They're just they're like the best of the best. They're killing it. What's the fastest that could happen? It's got to be years, obviously, because of each season, right?
Yeah.
But if you're at the bottom of the pile of the whatevs group that he wouldn't refer to, which I thought was rude, how long can that take?
Because that would take 4 years per season. You only play 1 season per year, right? So then you have to go from the bottom bracket to the next bracket.
Oh, she's doing maths.
To the next bracket.
Maths. Just curious, because I find that interesting.
It's my guess.
But for the teams at the top, just winning the Premier League sounds pretty easy. You're playing maybe 1 game a week. But that's the catch. There's other things going on here. So there's also the Carabao Cup, which is a tournament open to the top 4 leagues in England. And then there's the FA Cup, which has been going on since like forever.
Yeah.
That it's literally open to every team in England. So over 700 teams entered this one tournament last year.
Wow.
Like, imagine if every major and minor league baseball team had one giant tournament. So could any team win? Yes, they could.
Huh.
Will the small teams upset the bigger teams? At some point, maybe a few will. But is it likely that a non-Premier League team is going to win? No, probably not. So more fun to think about in
But they
theory
could.
than practically,
They
I
could.
guess. The final tournament is the big one. Like, what if we could find the best team in Europe? And I don't mean like each country gets a team. That's the European Championship that happens every 4 years. This, I'm talking about the league clubs. So the best teams from all over Europe, from 55 different countries,
Jeez.
battle it out each year. This is the UEFA Champions League. So as a side note on these acronyms here, FIFA is the organization that runs like big international tournaments like the
Right.
World Cup. And they help to coordinate things across different regions.
Mhm.
If you're an American, you probably heard of FIFA because somebody on SportsCenter mentioned somebody that was involved with
video
some kind
games.
of corruption investigation or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, within FIFA, the world is divided into 6 different regions. UEFA is Europe. That's where like the best players go.
Okay.
CONCACAF, you may have heard of because that's what the U.S. is in, the Confederation of North, Central American, and Caribbean Association Football.
Really?
Short and sweet.
Okay.
And then there's like the rest of the world. And each one of these groups has tournaments with national teams and their league clubs, like the CONCACAF Champions League and the UEFA Champions League. And these are called like the Champions League, but really it's just a tournament. So the UEFA Champions League is played in conjunction with the UEFA Europa League, which is
Okay.
kind of like the NCAA and NIT basketball
Oh.
tournaments, but with
Oh,
a bit of
okay.
a twist. They play the qualifying rounds for the Champions League first. So if you get knocked out of the big boy tournament, but you finish high enough, you can just move down into the Europa League and try to win that. And I won't get into the qualifying, but typically you're going to have teams that you may have heard of as an American, like Manchester City,
Man
Liverpool,
City.
Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur.
Yep.
From Spain, it'd probably be Barcelona and Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. Serie A from Italy, we'll have Juventus and Inter and Roma. And
I never knew that's how you pronounce that. Juventus. Because I've been
No.
saying Juventus. I've seen them. You have too, and you know you have.
Yeah, I probably have. I probably
Juventus.
avoided saying the word.
Juventus. You know, I thought we were going to be getting more rules and things, but I'm actually glad we're getting this instead.
Uh-huh.
This explains the game, like the thing, everything around it too. So
Yes.
we'll have to do a different video later. Now we can do more.
Yeah.
But this is interesting.
Really helping with like the leagues and how you kind of move around and why you want to win and how you have to win to advance into the next level.
But I'm going to rewind that just a little bit to hear him say that again because this is great. It's not Manchester City, it's Man City. Right? Right?
Madrid and Real Madrid. Serie A from Italy, we'll have Juventus and Inter and Roma
Juventus.
and Atalanta. Germany is pretty much dominated by Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich. And then there's other popular teams like Paris Saint-Germain from France and Lyon from France and Ajax from the Netherlands.
Ajax.
And then you throw in a few Russian teams and you're ready to party. So back to the Premier League. You remember how your team's playing that kind of standard 38-game schedule.
Okay.
So now, also at the same time, you're competing in the Premier League, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the Champions League.
It's a lot.
And there's like a bunch of other small one-off games happening
Okay.
too. So even if you have the best team, you're still probably not going to win all these tournaments just because of the wear and tear. If you can win 3 trophies in a year, that's like special. That's called a treble. If you win 4, that's called a quadruple, but that's pretty rare.
I would think.
And so the biggest payday is for winning your league, although I, for some reason, find the Champions League is hard to beat for excitement.
I want to know what teams have there been any teams that have won the quadruple
Mhm.
like recently? And when I say recent, let's say like what? What would be realistic? Because that sounds really complicated. Last 20 years.
Okay.
What were you
Yeah.
going to say?
I was going to say 50 years, but yeah.
Oh, I think that's a little silly.
Eh,
And then again, watch, I'll be wrong. No, curiously. And if it was anyone else's team that's watching, it wasn't your team, because I'd
Yeah.
be curious to know. It is a culture. This really is a culture now. I'm really
Mhm.
starting to understand it.
Yes.
So even though you can, soccer teams tend to trade players less than they do in the U.S. Rather, teams will just buy players from their current club. So
Okay.
a contract is going to include your salary, obviously, but also something called a release clause, which is a fee that would go to the current club for that player. So while any team could negotiate a transfer fee with a player's current club, a release clause takes that current team just out of negotiations altogether. So a baseball player, unhappy with the situation, he could demand a trade.
Right.
And they might trade him and he'd be happy.
Right.
But if they refuse to trade him, then he's kind of stuck.
Right.
Whereas a soccer player could just find another team willing to pay that release clause.
Really?
And once a team agrees to pay the clause, then they can just negotiate directly with that player. Obviously, the better player, the higher the fee is going to be, so the current club can go out and find a reasonable replacement.
But he did just say could.
Could.
What if he doesn't find it? Just curious. Transfer windows. Oh, okay.
Another big difference
Timing,
is
right?
that while most sports in the U.S. have a trade deadline, and that's followed by a few weeks afterward where players cannot move to another team,
Right.
soccer's kind of the opposite. So most of the time, you cannot move to another team. There are 2 periods a year called transfer windows
that's
that
it.
you can move during. So usually before and then halfway through the season. And you can sign a new contract for another team whenever, but you can't actually start playing for them until that next transfer window.
Okay. Makes sense.
And the last thing in terms of contracts is that in the U.S., most leagues have a draft, but soccer's pretty much like the Wild West. So teams will sign players, or I should say kids, like into their youth academy very young, like 10, 8 years old. And smaller teams who find a really good player could also include something called a sell-on clause when selling a player to a larger team that says if the team buying that player turns around and sells the player again to an even bigger club, then that original team will get a percentage.
They get them.
of
Okay.
that
That's
second.
interesting. Okay.
All right, so you're still here at this point. You probably want more. So what's next?
I actually do.
There are like an unlimited number of top or best goal compilations on YouTube, which
Right.
are kind of interesting in the sense that you can actually show, new people to soccer, the potential that the game has. Lots of Americans' exposure to soccer is like the Women's World Cup, and obviously we have a great team there, but you never really get to see what different strategies look like. Like
Right.
look up Barcelona tiki-taka videos. You won't regret that. They make grown men look like children.
No.
As I mentioned, the All or Nothing series on Man City
Yeah,
is
we can watch
great
that.
if you have Amazon Prime. And obviously just watching games is good. FIFA TV has a YouTube channel that has lots of international
Good to
matches.
know.
Or just look on YouTube for full football matches. You're smart, you'll find them.
Thank you.
UEFA TV has old Champions League matches. I think you might have to register, but it's free. You probably want to follow BR's football channel on YouTube. They have a lot of good stuff,
Okay.
including this very funny series called The Champions, which I'd probably wait a little bit until you learn a little more about the top players before watching that. One place I always turn to when trying to learn a new sport is video games. So FIFA would probably help. Although the big caveat there is that it has horrible reviews. That said, if you're just trying to learn the rules, like basic tactics and which players are on which teams and who plays where,
Yeah, it's helpful.
I would say it's been pretty helpful for me. Most of the negativity toward the game is for the online, the FIFA Ultimate Team mode, where you end up paying for players for your team.
Yeah, worry about
But if you just avoid that and then like stick to playing against the AI, then you should be okay. The only thing I hesitate to do is play as Barcelona because you can control Leo Messi, and like, who am I to tell God what to do? So I usually avoid that part.
Heard of them.
The alternative here
That
it
wouldn't
would
be
be a
that
game
far.
called Pez, which I've heard good things about, although it doesn't have licensing for many of the teams. So jerseys will look different and team names will be slightly
I
off,
wouldn't like that.
which I guess might be confusing to someone new.
Yeah. No.
And I think FIFA's player faces are a bit more recognizable too. News-wise, there's coverage like everywhere of soccer, although I do enjoy the site onefootball.com, which brings us to the sponsor of today's video, which is, there's no sponsor for today's video. I just make these videos to push the boundaries of PowerPoint.
I love
see
this
what
guy.
I can make myself. Anyway, hopefully that helps somewhat. You're now ready to venture off beyond the coasts of the United States and become an even bigger soccer fan. Just if you're leaving the U.S., call it football. They get mad if you call it soccer.
How many times have we said that in this video? Okay, so
Too many.
I definitely want to find a video on the rules to
Yes.
follow up with that. But actually, I think this was smarter. This was a smarter move, I think, on our end to do this first. There was so much in there. Oh my gosh.
A whole lot in there.
Yeah, but I didn't really have any trouble with it. I love the comparison to American sports and the different things, the different American things that we do here. That is so helpful. The leagues was helpful. I don't recall knowing that you got a point for the tie games, or you call it a draw, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
He called it a tie in the video, so I think he's speaking to us.
He's speaking to us.
That's true. This is for Americans.
Yes.
The whole relegation thing is still something that just really, really is confusing to me as a concept.
It is confusing, although I do like the concept of it.
Yeah, explain that for just a quick second here, because why do you like that? I'm surprised.
Just because then you're not stuck playing the same teams over and over, and you can mix them up.
Okay,
and
that makes sense.
It's not like, I don't know, for us, say, just use our team, the Cincinnati Bengals. They're not always in the top.
And they're not never in the top. I mean, the last couple of years.
But, I mean, they get to play different people, not the same teams over and over. Because
True.
when you have the same top teams playing the same top teams, and it gets boring after a while.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that point. That's a good point, but I'm still not a fan of it. Let me ask you guys a question. If you could just get rid of relegation, would you? Mm-hmm. I'm just asking.
That's good.
I'm not saying you should. I just have it's just really bizarre for me, having growing up in a very sports oriented family, and playing sports constantly. It's just it's a weird concept. And, before we watched Ted Lasso, never even heard the word relegation.
No.
But there was a lot here to learn. And I got most of it. I don't think there was anything there that I didn't get. But I definitely think a video on rules would be helpful. But the penalties and stuff, he didn't get to the offsides.
No,
so Debbie, you feel a little.
I'm a little nervous if I got anywhere close to it.
Let us know in the comments.
Yes, please let us know.
There's so much more to this than I had any idea.
Yeah,
and
it's much more.
It's just,
and I think it made it much more relatable for us being Americans and the sports that we're used to and the way our sports are usually played and ranked. So that was very helpful.
Again, in the comments, let us know what we may have missed here, what you think we should know. And if you want to see us do a video on the rules, if you have a suggestion on a link to a video, that'd be great too. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really happy we did this one. It took us too long. It took us too long to get to this, but we got to get more into it. We want to learn more. Want to learn more about European football. So this was the start. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, love like jazz.
Be as strong as Tyson.
Bye, guys.
Bye.